Welcome to the May 16th, 2024 Design Review Board meeting. We'll start off with the call to order and a roll call.
Board Member Malat,
Present.
Board Member O'Dorisio,
Present.
Vice Chair Chong,
Here.
Chair Kim,
Here,
and Board Member Rosner is absent.
thank you. At this time, it's a time in the meeting when we welcome oral communications on topics not covered on the agenda. You have 3 minutes and please feel free to come to the podium and state your name and address. Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to make comments on an item not on the agenda tonight? Seeing none in the live audience, how about on Zoom? Is there anybody who'd like to speak?
There's nobody from Zoom.
Thank you. And at this time, it's time for a staff briefing. If there is a staff briefing.
There's not one tonight, Chair.
There's none, okay. And I'd like to also use this opportunity to let everyone know that we are a design review board consisting of citizens, your colleagues who live in the area. We are all a volunteer, so please be aware of that. And we appreciate your kind sort of regard for that, and then as well to the city staff who work very, very hard to bring these matters to the board. I know that there's a lot of personal animosity that's often associated with your housing issues, but just want to make sure that everyone understands that we are as neutral as possible. Thank you. If we can talk about the minutes, that'd be great. Anybody like to make any comments on the minutes? Okay, thank you. And anybody would like to make a motion to adopt the minutes from last week, May 2nd?
Motion to adopt. Second.
All in favor, we'll take a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So the ayes have it.
I'll abstain.
Three ayes, one abstention, and one absentee. So the minutes have been adopted. Next, we will move on to the public hearing. So the procedure in the public hearings is first, the applicant makes actually if there's any staff updates, they would provide it at this time. Then the applicant has 5 to 20 minutes to present. Then is an opportunity for the design review board to ask questions of staff or to the applicant. Then we will open it up to public testimony with 3 minutes for each speaker. And members of the audience may not allocate their testimony to other speakers. Please state your name and your address. Then the applicant may respond to public comments. You have 5 minutes. Then the hearing is closed to the public and we deliberate amongst ourselves. We should probably address ourselves so that we can expound on the matter at hand. Then we will make a motion. So if the first applicant can come up, that's 801 Tiburon Boulevard. Thank you.
Oh, cool.
And then the down button will change, go to the next slide.
Great.
You need to go back up, you just.
Thank you.
I'm gonna shoot you in the light.
Thank you. First, we'd like to thank everyone for their time, both the design review board and staff for all their cooperation. My name is Colleen Paz. I'm with Even Space representing JJ and Carrie Hart, and this is Rondi Johnson from Third Nature, and she's responsible for the landscape portion. Okay. Oops, that's not me, right?
Sorry, it may take just a second if we can pause the timer to get this out of the way. And that bar should hopefully go in a second. Hoping a second will go a little faster. Okay. Thank you so much. Sorry about that.
That's fine. Again, my name is Colleen Paz. This is Rondi Johnson, and we represent JJ and Carrie Hart for 801 Tiburon Boulevard. What do I aim up at? We're changing the slide.
If it's not working, I can just do it for you.
Oh, did I do that or did you?
I think it was teamwork.
Okay. Great. Great. So here's the house in its original condition in 1952 when it was built. And then below is the house that's purchased by my clients. And as you can see, the lot was in need of improvements and it had been sort of watched the town grow up around it. Oops, that is the wrong direction. Here's the lot in the context of the area and all nearby development. It was easy for my clients to see the potential for the site being a corner lot with open views in both directions. And while they loved the existing layout, they knew that they needed to grow the size of the house and make substantial improvements. So first we looked at constraints. The front setback, while only 25 feet by zoning, was actually, we found that 60 feet was more appropriate, given that that is what fell in pattern with the rest of the area. Here's the house with the 60-foot setback line. Next, we looked at views, which is of course paramount in an area like this. We observed behind us at 10 Gilmartin, there was a patio close to the property line with a pergola structure that was clearly used for entertaining, and then substantial windows along the main level. Here's the pergola. And so our goals with that in mind was to maintain privacy by not moving the house close to the rear property line and maintaining clear stories when possible on the glazing on the rear facade, possibly lowering the interior floor level so that we could get the second level that the clients wanted for their primary bedroom. And then also we wanted to increase the boundary between the two properties with additional plantings. Looking at the next neighbor, we have 835 Tiburon. What we observed was dense vegetation along the entire southern property line and no windows above the fence line or the tree line on the northern facade. Our goals were to maintain that privacy with our glazing, stepping the head height down on our first floor level, and then using clear stories whenever possible on the upper level, and to also maintain the fence and vegetation along that property line. Here's the clear stories that are facing west and another view from what is inside the existing house. We also find some online marketing for the house next door and observed that a lot of the windows were facing the interior garden and or the vegetation, and that all of the views that were mentioned were taken from the front yard. So with all of these constraints in mind, we had the rough layout of where we would place the house. We had the front setback, which we wanted to maintain in rhythm with everybody else, also far enough back that we would be sort of saved from the noise and privacy issues of Tiburon Boulevard. We needed to align the driveway within the existing utilities and the cut curb or close to it. We needed to keep far back from this property line to preserve the privacy of this lower patio, which is I think about 8 feet from the line. And we know we needed the garage to be close to the driveway and the ADU accessible off that. And then again, we had our privacy issue along this line. We also had a view corridor we were trying to maintain with 779 Tiburon. Here's the existing survey. So again, the garage had to be moved to align with the driveway so that 2 cars could access it. Where it didn't really work. But the overall layout of the house was something the clients appreciated. Here we have the existing house. So again, the idea was to keep the garage close to the driveway, the ADU accessible off of that. The kitchen made sense to have it next to the garage, common space in the middle, and then maintain all of the bedrooms along the southern edge, which kept them furthest from the road, traffic, noise, and privacy. One thing that we all discovered worked well was this rear patio. It protected you from the road and offered protection from the wind. And so we opted to sort of base the new house around that space and make it an interior courtyard. This allowed us to have substantial glazing facing inward and not outward towards the road. It allowed the clients to be able to open the house up to both sun and air without having to open it to traffic and noise. It also gave us a great organizational strategy to have all of the bedrooms and the spaces sort of surround it and make it sort of the core of the house. So here's the rough layout. And again, the ADU is off the street, the kitchen, living room, dining room, and then the private spaces. One of the primary requests from JJ and Kerry was to have a primary bedroom with views. So we have a partial upper story, also sort of overlooking the courtyard. And having it on this side allows us to have glazing along the north to avoid too much southern exposure. It's private because we don't have any immediate neighbors on this side. And then we can have our clear stories along the two sort of property sides and our view out the front. Now, the further back we step it into the site, the closer we come to 10 Gilmartin's patio, and it works pretty well circulation wise to have it in this area, and then it also protects this courtyard. Here we are looking from the street. We actually maintained the original height, and if not like lower than where the existing structure is, by dropping the house 21 inches below the finished floor now. So we stepped down, and then towards the back, to not retain too much, we actually bring the finished floor up here while maintaining the lower roof height. From the front, again, this is the Gilmartin side. We wanted to keep the house low and unassuming from this side with not much glazing at all to maintain privacy, both for people driving by because we're very close to the road, but also for the inhabitants. And then the upper story here as shown on the southern portion of the site. Here we are, this green line represents the existing fence and also the proposed fence. The current head heights are lower than the existing on this side, especially in this area of the house. And then we have our upper clear stories for privacy, and we sort of nest into the grade as much as we can without retaining too much at the back. Another thing we found was the further back we pushed from the road, the closer we were to 10, but also the higher up we had to come without creating too many walls in the rear yard. Here we are from the rear. So a much lower structure at the back, and then this in the sort of background is the clear stories, which could also have obscured glass for privacy if required. I should note that all of the clear stories are still height 6 feet with a head of about 8 feet. So here we are from the corner. Again, the general scheme was to push back from the street without going so far back that we're encroaching on the neighbors, to maintain the views, to step down, but not step down so much that we end up retaining substantially at the rear. And Rhonda, if you wanted to add notes about the fence.
Sure, you can see the general fence concept there. It's not to exceed, we're asking for a variance not to exceed 8 feet at that corner. That's the lowest elevation point at the base of that fence. So that's about grade 16 at the base, which would put the top of that fence matching the finished floor elevation inside the house. So it's, even though we were asking for a fence that might sound high, it is actually quite low and situated well below the finished floor of the first floor of the house. It's also a fence design that is open pickets with space in between, half-inch space in between, to mitigate any appearance or look of a heavy wall. And the top of fence being level is also a design gesture in order to quiet down, clean up, and tidy this fence for the sake of the town and the neighbors. So it looks really beautiful and finished from all sides and allows a little light through.
And then we have the view from Gilmartin. So again, the idea being to stay low and sort of quiet and stoic with not much glazing, and to have the partial upper story pushed as far back from both streets as we really can. Looking at it in the section, this is the garage and the kitchen, and the blue line is the existing house. So we're actually moving further into the site. We're reducing the rear yard setback, or sorry, growing the rear yard setback from what is existing. And then again, stepping down 21 inches from the existing floor grade. Here we are and cut through the highest point. And so this was really what we were designing to when looking at our floor heights. This is the patio here with the upper story here, and how we're sort of stepping down the house. Now, again, if we have the upper story too far to the back, it becomes more of an obstacle. The palette for the house, we're going for natural earthy tones, sort of muted and matte as much as possible. The plant palette for the house. And again, here we are at the story poles. So earlier in the year, in July and August, we had reached out to the neighbors to coordinate We wanted to review our plan and discuss any concerns. Frank and Sally were generous enough to invite us into their lovely home, and we observed the story poles from there. And we found what we had hoped for and what we had planned for, and that was that while the house is visible, it certainly didn't impede upon what is a very wide and majestic view. Pink is our roof line. This is from the lower patio. I know that there was an image submitted, and I think it was taken from this hedge, and I think the rules aren't that you can't be seen from the yard, but we're not supposed to impede upon the view, and so we felt secure that we weren't infringing upon a primary view. Now, we'd reviewed different options. We were asked to move the house into the street corner as far as legally possible, which I think wouldn't be approved by the DRB, but also wasn't appealing to my clients. There was also a discussion, I think more recently in the emails, about moving the upper volume to the other side. There's many reasons to not do that. From the client's perspective, it puts their bedroom over the garage, which circulation wise doesn't really work. It also pushes the bedroom close to both streets. It makes the house seem larger from Gilmartin. It also, there's just noise and privacy issues, but in regards to 10, it actually puts our glazing surface, it's far more prominent position than when we tuck it onto the other side and just have the clear stories. So we did rule that out. Looking at it from 835, I know there are some images selected for the letters, and when we observed the story poles from these windows, we found that the windows do face the windows, along with, all of the houses along the street face the bay, and Tam is here. So the primary view when this house was built and these windows were installed was facing the bay. And, we found that if anything, it was their own roof lines and this new front roof that was part of a later remodel that actually blocked the water views, and that we were not really the issue. Now, since seeing the story poles go up, we have pulled back this privacy wall back 3 feet, so it's actually closer to about here. But I think any more and the primary bedroom would be, the primary deck and this property would then again have privacy issues. We also looked at shadow studies. We have nobody to our north, so really we don't cast shadows on anybody on the very certain small number of hours during the year because we're slightly south angled slightly. Here's the north arrow. There are some late afternoon in the summer shadows, but primarily on every day of the year, we don't cast a shadow. And that's the plan. And so I can save some time to go back into any slides if anybody wants, but that's the end of the presentation.
Thank you. Does staff, do we have any questions? Anybody from the board have questions to the applicant? I have a quick question. Along Tiburon Boulevard, how many homes have fences in the 8-foot range?
That's a good question. I just looked.
And how many houses have a fence that's forward, that violates the 60-foot setback that you were sort of getting at, but it's
Quick survey and included some images in the fence variance application. And there were a number of homes. This is available full scale.
okay.
My fence variance application. I can pass it up to you guys. But I did a quick survey up and down the Tiburon Boulevard where there were architectural walls. There were many houses that had retaining wall, substantial planting and fence uphill. So stacked heights that added up to much greater than 8 feet. So we're trying not to grade right inside our easement there, right at the edge of the road, but just simply have a top of fence set at 8. And then we would have vegetation on both sides of that to soften it.
Did you check with the town and any of the other parts of the town with regard to safety, because an 8-foot fence at that corner is going to be excluding all of the traffic coming down.
Right, and we do have a clear 35-foot visibility buffer there. So there's quite a sizable planted low shoulder on both Gilmartin and Tiburon, where no plant material is above, I think the rule is 30 inches in height. So it's all low plantings along that median on both sides. There's a significant concrete swale and utility lids in that area as well. Our fence is set back from the road on Gilmartin about 18 feet and on Tiburon a little bit more than 10. So it's all low plantings on the road side of the fence. And then you can see it in the slide, there's a slight radius curve at the corner of the fence. And that is to keep it clear of that visibility buffer. So we actually feel that it'll be a beautiful entry point up the hill on Gilmartin to the rest of the neighborhood. And it's pulled back in a very gracious and clean way.
And you've referred to the Gilmartin side of the house as north, but in looking at your site plan here, it's almost exclusively 45-degree angles off of north. So,
Northwest.
well, yeah, so northwest, you've got northwest, southeast, and southwest. This changes your solar calculations dramatically if you haven't allowed for it.
For
Did
the-
you allow for that?
For the,
They will have the accurate information for Title 24 or for our shadow study.
Okay.
The house is oriented correctly in the model.
Right. And did you take into account the fact that your house to the south, 835, is actually about 3 feet lower than your house?
We have the peak heights from our survey, but that's all we have. We don't have their interior finished floor heights.
Okay, thank you.
No other questions. At this time, we will open it up for the public, to the public. We will start with in-person comments. If you could sort of move your, sorry,
We just-
material. Yeah, thank you. And if each applicant or each commenter can, we have a clock here, so we can comment 3 minutes each. So feel free to come up. Yep. Go ahead. And when we're ready, we'll let you know. Okay, great.
Good evening. My name is Kim Weichel, and my husband Carl and I have been co-owners of 835 Tiburon Boulevard since 1985, which is adjacent to the Hart's property. They have 2 contiguous neighbors, the Romanis on Gilmartin and us, and both parties have strong opposition to this proposal for a variety of reasons. As background, we met with the Harts and their architect last summer and showed them how their plans would greatly affect our views and our privacy as well as other concerns. We specifically said that we much prefer a single-story home, such as ours, where they could have an excellent view. Yet to compromise, we requested that if they wanted a second story, that it be moved to the Gilmartin Drive side where it would not block anyone's view. Unfortunately, they ignored our comments and requests as well as the Romanis. We have detailed our concerns in a letter and supplied pictures, which we'll now summarize. The second story would block our view from our master bedroom and from my art studio and would completely eliminate the view of Mount Tam and reduce over 75% of the view of the bay. I'm an artist and the view is my inspiration for my art, and this proposed second story would harm my work. The view also blocks our gorgeous view from our bedroom. This is in contradiction to the Tiburon's view ordinance that restricts blockage of views. So you can see the photos for each point. When we approach and enter our front door of our home, the view of this towering box-shaped design dominates and makes us feel squeezed in and lacking privacy. It would greatly diminish the beauty and natural ambience of our home entrance and front yard. The afternoon sunlight would be diminished along the whole side of our home. From the proposed second story, they would have a direct vantage point into the 2 bedrooms and our bathroom, greatly reducing our privacy. This is unacceptable. The afternoon sunlight from my office would be diminished, as well as the view from our living room patio. The height of the proposed second story creates a canyon effect that could amplify traffic sound from Tiburon Boulevard, as well as the amplification of the outdoor weddings held over 6 months of the year at the landmark Art and Garden Center on the other side of our property. We already deal with sound that often permeates our property at each wedding, and this towering wall would most likely exacerbate that sound. We've reviewed his long proposal and found some inaccuracies, particularly as it relates to the impact on neighbors. We know that Mr. Hard has his own building company and will be the builder for this project. Carl and I believe he is developing this house as a spec house to make a profit, and he could sell the property from the plans at any point. Whether he sells or not, he ignored his two contiguous neighbors' concerns and moved forward with a plan that greatly reduces both our valuable views, privacy, and general ambiance in perpetuity in order to benefit himself. We sincerely hope you do not approve these plans for a second story, or at minimum, require them to move the second story to the other side. Thank you. And my husband now is going to speak.
Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Carl Weichel. Sorry. Go. The request for a second story we maintain is in conflict with Tiburon Building Code's guiding principles. The site layout in relation to the neighborhood is imbalanced, incompatible, and obtrusive, specifically referring to Principle 2, site layout in relation to adjoining sites, with particular attention to view considerations, privacy, and adequacy of light and air. From Principle 3, neighborhood character. In neighborhoods consisting primarily of one-story homes, second-story additions shall be discouraged and permitted only with increased setbacks. Their plans call for a floor area exception above the acceptable allocation of 3,655 feet. The request of 420 square feet increase is about 1,645 feet above the normal acceptable limit when you consider including the ADU and the two-car garage. We request that this variance not be approved. Their plans along the south elevation show the front yard from the house will be elevated with landfill to create a flat patio deck area with steps downward to the pool. When they install a 6-foot fence, we presume that the extended view blockage will increase to maybe about 9 feet from our side, which further diminishes the beauty and natural ambience of our entrance and front yard. The Harts initially told us they were erecting a 6-foot fence along the entire property line, yet they have now requested an overheight variance for the front fence from 6 to 8 feet. This would greatly reduce our view of the bay from our living room and front yard. We request that this variance not be approved. We're concerned about the impact of the swimming pool. Activity and noise from this pool would be an extra disturbance for us, as we already have lost privacy and tranquility with the many weddings and events at the Art and Garden Center on the other side. Their plan shows for approximately 150-foot square wooden deck up along the rear east elevation, which creates another outdoor gathering space near our master bedroom. This should be eliminated and left in natural foliage. We certainly hope the board declines their second story proposal along with the variances. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Frank Romani, together with my wife, Sally Sadie, and our sons, Alex and Luke, 7 and 10. We're the owners of 10 Gilmartin Drive. 10 Gilmartin Drive is contiguous adjacent to the proposed development at 801 Tiburon Boulevard. We've been there since 2016. Our son was born, and then we moved in there some 8+ years ago. Just at the onset, I just wanted to say that there's many things we like about your proposed property. We do. We commend you on a lot of the work that was done. And I'm all about forward progress, all about development improvement. When you do the development improvement, just like we did, and we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on putting our bedrooms down, developing that gazebo that you saw, the yard and everything else, we took in consideration our neighbors and the impact it has on our neighbors.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You address the board. Thank
Sure,
you.
yeah, absolutely. But I wanted to make sure that, again, they understand that not everything that they're doing, we're opposed, right?
Sure.
Unfortunately, we're not here to talk about what we do like. We're here to talk about why we're opposing this. In large part, where we're opposing it is the second story that they're proposing, especially the situation of the second story relative to the improvements we've done. Again, we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars over a extended period of time. That gazebo is effectively our outside yard, and that's where our children play. And also the bedroom for our children is overlooking that. The way they have it situated is it's an obstacle to our view. It impedes our view in part, and also raises privacy concerns on our end. That's the reason we're not in favor of this. Again, we like many of the things that they're proposing to do, and I think it's an improvement. That said, many of the aspects of this, including, as was mentioned by the other neighbors, the size of this property relative to the variances that have been requested, it is out of size. When we did our development, we stayed within the rules. We were very cognizant of not trying to ask for variance to go above and beyond that. They're asking for significant, what is a 1,600 square feet variance above that. Even if you, whether you regard or disregard it, it's still a substantial 400 to 500 square foot allowance above, independent of the proposed ADU. We should all play within the rules. We played within the rules. We took the neighbors into consideration when we did what we did. And if you look at it, in addition to the submission that we had, as well as our other neighbors, there's quite a few people that are opposed to it. The other thing to note is, and hopefully you visited, those story poles and those pictures, the ones that they have submitted, those are the ones from last summer. From the best I can tell, the current story pole and the proposed property is at least 2 to 3 feet higher. And it does impede our views. And the angle that they're taking is a low angle. So hopefully you have a chance to take a look at it and see that it does actually obstruct our views.
Thank you. Is
Thanks.
there anyone else from the audience who'd like to make a comment?
My name is Sally Sadie Romani, and I'm the owner of 10 Gilmartin Drive. We live right behind the 801 Tiburon Boulevard project. We moved to Tiburon in 2016 when I was pregnant with my second child. We fell in love with the town and the beautiful views surrounding our property. Our wish was to raise our 2 boys here and eventually retire here. We purchased our home based on how beautiful the view was and invested into the remodeling, construction, and because of this, especially since the home in front of us, 801 Tiburon Boulevard, was a 1-story, just like all the other homes on Tiburon Boulevard. We never once thought that a developer would purchase the house right in front of us as a spec home and build it out to a monstrosity of a plan and block our view. Had we known, we wouldn't have made all the sacrifices and investment, and it's quite disappointing and saddening for us. I'm bewildered and perplexed as to how a plan like this could even be in the consideration set of the design review process. We always thought that living in Tiburon and being a resident of this wonderful town gives our family the security and assurance of not having to defend our own property and our property views, even though the rules are clearly listed on the town's website and what we have invested our time, energy, and money. Not only is the proposed plan completely oversized for the livable square footage and so uncharacteristic of the surrounding homes on Tiburon Boulevard, but it completely hinders our view from our most critical, livable, entertaining spaces where we eat our meals, enjoy our family time, spend all of our quality moments. It completely hinders our view, not to mention that it impacts our privacy. It would impact the privacy of my small children as well. As you can imagine, as a mother, I feel very uncomfortable about this. In conclusion, we strongly, strongly disapprove of these proposed development plans and urge you to help us preserve our beautiful view and the privacy of our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to make a comment at this time? Seeing none, could you check online and see?
There are no public comments from the Zoom audience.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we should reset the clock and have the applicant, I believe, 5 minutes to make any comments.
I'll just say that, starting out, my clients were incredibly sensitive to their neighbors' wants and needs, and that looking at what their houses, how the sites sort of interacted with each other was our first design constraint. Everybody keeps saying that we're really big. We're actually a really low lot coverage. We're under our lot coverage. We are asking for a floor area exception, but that is a very common thing in the area. And I think a quick search of the addresses given on every single letter would show that those residents also have floor area exceptions. I won't say any names, but sometimes in the amount of several thousand square feet. So I don't think the house is oversized. I don't think that there's privacy concerns. I also think that when you put your patio 8 feet from somebody's property line, that doesn't mean that whoever then has that property has to stay more than, I think we're like more than 60 feet away from that patio on our upper level. So, and I don't see any privacy concerns. We have clear story windows on the back, regardless of the age of the occupants of that property. We don't have windows looking back at that level. And as far as 835 Tiburon, we think it's unfortunate that it went this way, but all of the glazing on that house faces west. There are no primary views along the fence line. The artist loft that clear story photo is taken from is a small space above a closet, lofted in a main bedroom or lofted in a bedroom. And again, we think it faces west towards the bay. And as far as the speculating that they're building a spec house, I don't know where that rumor started, but there seems to be a lot of gossip. My clients do intend to live in the house, and this is designed for their needs, their family, their ample house guests, and their busy home offices, and the life that they want to live there.
Okay, thank you. Oh, would you like
Story
to?
poles, the story poles, I mean, we didn't have them surveyed the first time, but we have no reason to believe that they're any different than the actual surveyed story poles. So while they're down, and I can't speak to that, they are definitely not several feet different.
Can you confirm whether or not they've been certified?
Oh, these ones have
They
been.
have.
I'm sorry, JJ and Carrie offered to put up preliminary story poles in July or August. And that's what we were all supposed to meet about then. And so that's the story poles they're saying are actually lower than the ones that have been certified now.
Thank you. Would you like to make any comments now?
Yeah.
If you can come to the.
So I'm Joseph Hart. I'm the owner of 801 Tiburon Boulevard. This is my wife, Carrie. Yeah, number one is we found 801 Tiburon a long time ago, and we fell in love with the lot, and it was a place that we felt when we bought it we could retire into and we definitely knew that the property was a challenge. We contacted Tiburon and basically planning and said, hey, what could we build there? Before we actually bought the property. And they let us know what we could build there, which seemed like it would fit our family needs. So with that, we went into the design phase, and we were definitely conscious of our neighbors. We've spent like months working on this with our design team. I think they've done an incredible job. We definitely, there's a lot of constraints on the site. We felt like we pushed the house forward. It wasn't, honestly, for me, I didn't like the idea of pushing forward but it just seemed like that kept the house down. We knew that we could go 30 feet. I think the house right now is at 21 feet. And, we're just trying to, I think we've done a good job in the design overall. As I said, we've got these constraints. No one likes change, and I definitely understand that. But we just want to build this beautiful house and, make all our neighbors happy. That's our goal, so, and I think our design team have done a really good job in that, and thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions, to the applicant?
Yeah, just maybe a question for the design team. Just if you could, the microphone, thanks. I'm just kind of curious what one-story designs were kind of in the very early stages were explored that still gave you some of the things that you wanted as far as, you know, the courtyard or the square footage, those type of things, and
Yeah.
what that might have looked like.
So one of the primary goals for JJ and Carrie was the primary suite with views, and that did push it to the upper story. Certainly you could have it towards the back, but there's no laws against second stories, and we really felt that if we dropped the house low enough and we kept the ceiling heights low enough, and we didn't impede upon the people immediately behind us, then certainly we wouldn't be blocking the view of anybody behind them. So I guess the short answer is there wouldn't be a primary bedroom with views.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we close off the hearing to the public and we will deliberate amongst ourselves. And if anybody would like to start, please go for it.
Either one, go. I'll do it. Go. Well, first of all, I'd like to say that you,
And we
made
should,
a-
let's deliberate amongst ourselves too.
creative
Yeah.
use of the site. I think the H plan is tried and true, has been used many years before. The atriums in the center certainly add a great deal of fine character to the house. I like the overall look of it. The real problem is the siding and the second story. It has a cataclysmic effect on two neighbors. At least the one to the south, 835, is loses all of its afternoon sun, has a huge privacy problem, and I think is the placement of that master suite could have been either opposite on the opposite side, but farther uphill. And then from the uphill neighbor, because it's pushed as far as the end of the lot, it actually takes 4 to 6 more feet of bay water view than it would if it were moved back farther on its own site. I personally would like to see this master suite relocated. And I think it's due on the site based on the effect on both neighbors. Loss of sunlight, loss of privacy. I'm also concerned about the 8-foot high fence because the adjacent parcel is 3 feet lower, or the house is sited 3 feet lower approximately than this house will be. That fence will preclude some of their water view looking obliquely out of their living room, which both houses borrow from each other in the front of the house. The living rooms will look, the living spaces will look across each other's parcels. So those are my primary concerns. I do think that the house is substantially workable the way it is. And there are several places that master suite could be put on the upper floor that does not have to go in that corner. It could go uphill or across over the ADU, either one of which would be a better location from the neighbor's standpoints. And it's not a substantial remodeling of the house.
Okay.
When I came here tonight, I was very curious of why it had to be a second story, and I understand that from your presentation. At the same time, to ask for floor area exemption, and then that exemption is really put into the second story. I can understand how that's has a significant effect on your neighbors. There was a lot of mention about sensitivity to neighbors and the views, and yet, you know, we've heard the comments tonight. It impacts neighbors on both sides quite a bit. I think that you have to think about a different location or a different approach to that second story. I don't know what other ideas and what other that you looked at. And I guess my last comment is I think the 8-foot fence, especially coming forward, would give a very much a walled off appearance. The question of safety, I'm still not sure I could understand or see that yet, what it does to the corner. And some of your other neighbors that do have not really fences, it's much more along the lines of walls, gardens, extended patios and this. So I think that has a better look and feel than just a forward fence. So I was not happy with the 8-foot variance on the fence either.
All right, yeah, I had a chance to visit the homes of both the uphill and the next door neighbor this earlier today. So from the fence, the 8-foot fence doesn't bother you too much. The desire to have a larger fence on Tiburon Boulevard, we've approved a few of those over the years, between light and noise and just kind of privacy. I totally get the need for that. For exceptions, the findings are not as like we need to do for variances, and there's the square footage as a number doesn't really bother me. The second story is clearly the part that gives me the most pause for concern. The privacy impacts for the next door neighbor, the view impacts for the uphill neighbor. I think there's definitely other ways that it could be redesigned. What Jim suggested was one. I personally, I think I'd struggle with any version of a 2-story. I mean, obviously, a redesign that then sends some new story poles that allows us to see what that would look like. But I think I'd struggle to get behind a 2-story there unless it was, significantly less impactful. I think moving it over solves one problem, but doesn't necessarily solve the uphill neighbor view problem. So. Maybe while you're.
Yeah, I
looking to that,
think, I wasn't able to go to the 835 Tiburon house, but I can pretty much see the proximity and the impact of light and shade on that because of its location. I would urge, I don't know, I think there's a design here that could be a single story and it could work.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when I look at it, it's like there's a rear patio, there's a courtyard, and there's a pool, right? And these are all things that consume, the lot that could be used for building that suite. And I get the need to have a as high a story as possible to capture as much Richardson Bay view as she can. But I just think that the expense that it comes at, is there a design that maybe raises the floor height so that you capture better views from the first story? I just think that there's.
The 60-foot setback from the street, I think it's more self-imposed. I mean, I'm looking along the entire sort of street right there, and it's kind of all over the place. There's no real guided setback of 60 feet. So it seems like a self-imposed sort of setback. So I think there is probably a 1-story. Maybe it is raising the plate height just so they can capture the views. But yeah.
I think I compare. I think that while Gilmartin clearly gets steeper as you go up, and it affords the opportunity to have 2 stories as you go up. The very beginning of Gilmartin is a gentle slope. It's, in my opinion, no different than like the neighborhoods that are off Stewart or off Rock Hill, where it's very, very limited views, and we've really done things to keep folks to 1 story just to not obliterate uphill neighbor views.
Well, and all of Tiburon Boulevard is
all-
substantially single story. There are a few 2 stories, but they're very
Yeah.
compressed and petite. And
I mean, just by having recent 1-story application, just by the lowering of the roof height made all the difference for an uphill neighbor, even on a 1-story, right? Going from a
Yeah.
peak to a less peak roof.
So anyone would like to try to make a motion?
Assuming that we'd be looking for, I think, a continuance to give the applicant an opportunity to, are we up against anything on permit streamlining deadlines or anything like that?
The current PSA deadline is June 22nd, so the next meeting would be either June 6th or June 20th. But they do have the ability to sign in a 90-day extension, so 90 days from June 22nd.
Okay.
So there's time.
Okay. Anybody would like to try to make a motion?
I think we need just to maybe check with maybe open up to just ask the architect what a date What's the date we'd be looking at, I guess?
June sixth, June 20th, or July 18th.
I don't think you can do June sixth and get certified story.
Oh, yeah,
poles.
that's a good point. So that's
Yeah.
not even,
Yeah, there's no way.
so the earliest would be June 20th.
So, like to open it up just to simply ask a quick yes and no question about a date that would work. Would the June 22nd, what was it? 20th, review board work with your idea? Okay, great. Thank you. And we'll just close it back up. Anybody like to make a motion?
I'd like make a motion to continue the application to the June 20th design review board meeting.
Anyone second it?
Second.
Let's take a roll call.
Board Member Odericio,
Favor.
Board Member Malat,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chong,
Aye.
Chair Kim.
Aye. So the ayes have it 4 and 1 absent. Next, we'll move on to 619 Ridge Road.
Yeah. Okay, what is it?
She's it. Okay, I just have to talk into the microphone.
Okay. Good evening, members of the
Oh,
board.
could you hold on 1 second? Let's get the timer up there.
Oh.
Okay, please go
Okay,
ahead.
hi, good evening, members of the board. I want to introduce myself. Joyce Flood, I'm the architect on the project. We have our design team here, Kelsey, she's the landscape architect, and we have Jeff Johnston from Johnston Construction and Randy Potter. They help us reach out to the neighbors. I want to thank staff for all your comments. Let's see. Here. And I apologize, the homeowner can't be here. Here. So I want to start, this is the plot plan. This is Ridge Road. And this is the property line. This yellow, this highlighted area is the pathway, or we call it the easement. So it's outside of our property. So that will be maintained because it's outside of our property. So I just want to explain that the positioning of the building is at an angle, so it faces the view. And one of the requests by the homeowner is he doesn't want to see the garage as he drives up the street. That's why it's subterranean garage. So the neighbor most impacted by this project is 623 Ridge Road. So we established a view corridor, which is this line here. So what we did is we pushed the building back so it's away from the view corridor. Let's see. I'm gonna go to the next slide.
I'll do it too if it's not working.
Oh, wait, yeah. So this is the view from 623 Ridge Road. This is the view from the deck of 623 Ridge Road. So this, I first met with them 2 years ago and showed them our first schematic. So this is the original footprint of the house. And based on this, we moved, he requested to push the house down about 18 inches from his, from the top of his deck rail. But what I did is I just moved the entire house back so it's away from the, from the view corridor, which is, this is now the new footprint as as presented to you. I'm gonna go down here. This is the, let's see. So this is the view corridor, and then this red line, I mean, this hatch line is the original building encroaching into his view corridor. So that's been moved back, which is this one. Let's see a portion, which is. You wanna say something?
No, you're
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go down. Oh, wait, there. So the first house I did for the homeowner is a traditional Cape Cod house. So when he approached me to do this house, we talked about the different styles. And so we came up with a contemporary house. The modulation, the ceiling heights inside the ceiling heights inside the house dictated the vertical modulation. So the main living area, he wanted a loft style house inside his the main living area. That's why we have these taller ceilings here. And then the kitchen area, I just dropped the ceiling down, and the bedroom area, I dropped the ceiling down, so it created a vertical modulation. And then we have a play of, different materials, a combination of stone veneer, fiber cement sidings, and a little bit of stucco just to break it up. We received a letter from the neighbors on Mountain View about glazing here. This faces her house. So we are going to do some anti-reflective glass here, which is just film. So we're gonna take that into consideration. We have, so this, what do you wanna?
No,
I'm gonna-
you're killing it.
Okay, so this is the view as you drive up Ridge Road. We have our subterranean garage here, so it's not visible from the street. Let's see. We are asking for a variance for lot coverage. The reason being, there's a big dip in the rear. A survey
Yeah, right there.
right here.
That's a good one too. Sure.
Okay, so let's see. This area here, there's over here.
And a little bit higher by the 80.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
this
right
one.
there.
So this area here, there's a big natural dip there. So in order for us to maintain the hardscape area and access to the ADU, it put us over the lot coverage by about 1.63%. So this is the area that we're asking for a variance. It's so because of that dip in that area. I'm gonna turn it over to you.
So I'm just gonna review the landscape architecture. So, oh, thank you. Yeah. So the hardscape was, the challenge of this lot was to keep the hardscape and the grade below 3 feet high to minimize lot coverage and negotiate the downsloping lot. The grading in the front yard does not exceed 3 feet above the natural grade. The retaining wall at the entryway is approximately 4.5, a little under 4.5 feet high, in order to create a flat entryway to the front of the house, but also keep us below 3 feet. Plant materials, go through here. So the planting is informed by the natural landscape around. So there's coast live oak trees, and the majority of the plantings are native grasses and flowers. We're also preserving the existing coast live oak tree in the front yard. So right here, there's an existing coast live oak tree. So all of these are coast live oaks, ginkgo biloba, maidenhair tree, and then there are 4 large ginkgo bilobas in the front to soften the massing of the front of the residence and property line privacy plant material willow wattles here that do not get too tall to still preserve the neighbor's view, about 13 feet high. The coast live oaks and the maidenhair trees have been largely implemented to mimic the natural landscape around the property as well as preserve the privacy of the neighboring properties. The fencing along the property line is planned as a concrete wall 4 feet high with a 2-foot high thermally treated lumber with a max height of 6 feet. The neighbor at 623 Ridge requested a fire barrier with no wood on the property line fence. So that wall was changed to a 6-foot high concrete wall along this side. Still works with the design. It's just no wood on top. Pool safety fences are constructed of thermally treated lumber. So there's a pool safety fence here, and then one here, and then there's another one along here. And those have a max height of 6 feet. And there's a 3'6" high entryway gate here. Jeff? Yep.
Hello, I'm Jeff Jungston. I'm involved in this. We've been in the Bay Area building here for quite some time. And as we've seen, even this evening, we know the importance of designing around the community. So as the homeowner and the design team were engaging into a design, we were brought in to help engage the community, engage the town, figure out the best way to build something on a lot that people have experienced as a empty lot for quite some time. So in working through the positioning of the building, the positioning of the screening, I wanted to thank the neighbors that we met with, and we met with all of the contiguous neighbors and some others, had lots of great conversations, and some very challenging parts of the project were or parts of the project were changed that the client really wanted to keep, but it really works with the neighbors, and that's always really important to work with. So significant changes, like Joyce was saying, the building was moved significantly to the left where there are trees now. There will be a house. There was really no view there. It'll just be replaced with a residence. So mainly out of their view as much as possible, if that's at all possible. The house was lowered to look like a single story from the street, which is really nice for the upslope neighbor. We walked the property with the downslope neighbor and realized the transportation walking path on the south side was critical to the neighborhood. So that's being maintained through that easement and not encroached in as the other side has. So that was a nice thing. That screening for the downslope, we talked about also about when it comes time to planting trees, we would do so with the neighbor so that obviously our client doesn't want to look down into anybody, and we certainly don't want anybody looking up. And I think it's a shared event that we would then place trees in a advantageous position for everybody. So we agreed to do that. We met on the north side for property line screening and different types of wall structure. And then the important part was looking at the ADU. The ADU was lowered and the top of the railing was a foot below their deck, which felt safe, but they felt that having no roof deck on the ADU would be advantageous to them. And that was a struggle bus, to be honest. That was hard to get rid of. That's the best. If there was nobody else in the neighborhood, that house would be moved where the ADU is. Obviously, it's the best view in the area. So sacrificing that and getting rid of the roof deck was a big deal. But as we've seen, making changes that are good for the neighbors is really important to make it happen. And the best project is the one that gets built. So we removed the roof deck at the ADU, which is really nice, actually. So it's been a really good engagement. At least I feel it has. There's probably some, it's hard. There's a house going in there that wasn't there before. But in all things considered, it's been considered as well as possible with materials, with the neighbors involved, and we have literally met with everybody on the street that we could. We sent out a lot of letters and we got a lot of response. So it was really great. And staff has been really good to work with to help us navigate the difficult parts, if there were any. So that's really it. It's pretty well baked as far as it can be. That's all we got. I think that's all I have anyway.
That ends our presentation.
Great, thank you. Anybody from the board have any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll now open it up to the public for comments. Please state your name and your address, and you have 3 minutes. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm Scott Woods, live at 623 Ridge Road with my wife Ann, and we have been living next to a park for the last 26 years next door. So it is difficult, and but we knew it was coming someday. And frankly, the outreach and our experience with Joyce and Orlando and Jeff and Randy has been very positive, very engaging. And I've been through a lot of these meetings and a lot of clients building homes, and it's pretty rare actually. So we're grateful for that. We're in support of the project. They listened to all our concerns, and you know, our views are very important to us, and we appreciated them bringing the house in. Of course, adding the ADU, we were wondering, okay, what's that going to look like? And the ADU itself is well below our view. But with the roof deck, we had serious concerns because not only privacy, but view encroachment. And, you know, their intention is not to probably be using it all the time, but if they sell the house down the road, you know, someone puts up heat lamps, someone puts up, you know, whatever, you know, our views are protected, but, you know, we just saw a difficult potential situation, and it did obstruct our view, and the railing took away quite a good portion of our water view. And so we're grateful that they listened to that. We understand that it was difficult. It's a difficult decision for the owner and the whole team, but we're very grateful and we're in support. And we know that there's a lot of emphasis put on maintaining a good, you know, well-run construction site. We know Jeff's the ultimate professional. He's given us his card, and you know, we're a little concerned about construction traffic like anybody else, but you know, I know we have a direct line to him, so we're covered there. He listened to us on the fence material, which is really important for fire safe measures. And we're looking forward to having Orlando as a neighbor, and we're in support of this project.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sharon Kahn. I live at 1855 Mountain View Drive. This project definitely impacts us directly. And as Scott says, we've had a park behind us for a long time. We had nice conversations. I am concerned about the windows with the glazing. Their second story looks directly into the windows upstairs, our bedrooms on our house, bedrooms and bathrooms. When I look out right now, it looks like I'm going to have an office building behind us. Fortunately, the trees and the plantings will help that at the ground level and at the first level of our house. So I would like to be sure that I think I heard a comment that they were just going to put film on the windows. Film does something for the inside, but I don't know so much about the reflection of the glass on the outside. With the sun setting in our neighborhood, it can be quite hot from the reflection of the sun in the summer times. I'm also concerned about the roof deck. I appreciate that they're taking it off, but you know, the noise in the neighborhood from something like that, we have fought that with the neighbors in front. When people are up on their roofs looking at the view and whatnot, the sound really carries in that particular neighborhood. It's like an amphitheater. And I think they have enough views from that property without that. And then the construction, we've had no less than 22 cars on our street. The Little Mountain View Drive, we've had 3 houses under construction. One is going into its 4th year. And we have spoken to these people about let's try and get this done. To get up to our house, we have no less than 4 projects that's been going on for more than 4 years. And I dread that now that the one in front of us is going to be finishing up. And now we're going to have another many years of dust and noise from this project. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else from the audience who'd like to make a comment? Okay, seeing none, is there anyone online?
No, Chair.
Okay, thank you. The applicant now has 5 minutes.
So Joyce and I.
If you could wait once.
Oh,
Okay, sorry. Go
There we
ahead.
go. So Joyce and I did have a chance to walk the lot yet again. Happy to incorporate whatever landscaping would make the neighbor feel comfortable. She's got a beautiful planting palette. I think happy to add whatever additional plant materials would assist her in feeling comfortable about the massing, the glazing, and collaborate with her in the landscape. So.
I'll just say one thing to that. Also, I think it would be important for us as well that we don't look into their building. So we did have that conversation on site, and we can go through renderings and say, here are the plants that are chosen. We're also upslope of their home, so it makes it easier to plant trees and have coverage for them. And we will do that as an engaged event. When we get to screening, we will be very strategic about it. We're committed to that. So we've already said that to them. We'll say it to you guys too, that when it comes time to protecting their privacy and our privacy, we will be engaged in that 100%.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my question would just be like as a board, we can't like say you have to work together with somebody because it's open to interpretation. I guess what are some potential like concrete things that you could give us as examples of what that might look like?
Yeah, so the neighbor has 2 ironwood trees on her property. They're very beautiful Catalina ironwood trees, and I'm happy to incorporate those also. I think you've seen how quickly they grow. They're beautiful. They are a little messy. Oh, okay. I can incorporate that into the landscape plan. There's even she's got Arbutus marina on her property as well. We can collaborate with your planting palette as well. Love that tree. Totally works with that, and that's a simple addition. Doesn't impact the previous approvals we've gotten on the planting as far as fire approval and water.
And so what exactly would that be like?
The addition of Arbutus maria. Are you? That's the red trunk tree you have in the backyard. Those ones. The strawberry trees. Yeah, exactly. The strawberry trees. Yeah. Just adding like, I mean, we could add like, 5 of them. Definitely. Yeah. I can add, I could see the addition of like 4 or 5 Arbutus marina along the property line to assist in privacy considerations. Doesn't impact my previous approvals, as I mentioned.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much. This time we will close the hearing to the public and deliberate amongst ourselves. Anybody like to start off?
You always like to kind of want me to play these. Okay.
I have only one major concern with the property. I think it's a fairly big building on the site. I'd love to see it drop 2 feet overall, but that 2 feet is more important on the ADU in that the temptation for that roof to become a deck is going to be irresistible. I'm not talking about the ADU itself, but to bridge across from the main room to that deck. And that is always going to be a problem for the adjacent neighbor because that's their primary view of San Francisco. So I'd like to see the ADU drop 2 feet.
I don't think
no
we can talk,
change.
I don't think we can talk about ADUs.
Well, actually, this is not changing the character of the building at all. It's merely changing the elevation of it.
Staff, can you weigh in?
Yeah, the ADU complies with all state standards in the town's
Oh,
ADU ordinance, so it's exempt.
I beg to differ. It looks like there's a 15-foot height limit on ADUs.
It's for detached ADUs, it's currently 16 feet, so they're below the threshold for discretionary review.
On the downhill side, it looks like they're right at it. It's 1075 plus 6, the way I read it, but that building should be lowered 2 feet.
We can't,
If we can't do it, we can't do it, but I do think it's a mistake to allow that.
council, could you state what we're allowed to say about the ADU and the heights?
Nothing. So this is, I would.
For the record.
Yes. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
As just maybe just a kind of footnote, some reassurance if there is any future addition or there is a proposal where there would be some attachment from the primary dwelling, that would be subject to review and would likely not be supported,
Okay.
so. What we can,
So anything, if the ADU conforms to the restrictions, height restrictions, we cannot comment, period.
correct, so it complies with all setbacks, height,
Okay.
floor area,
It looked like it was over the height to me, but in any case, I stand corrected. There, could you, well, I see a 4 or 5 foot, what I presume is a planting zone along the driveway side. And I think that's minimal, but I do have to say that the front yard looks like it's a good resolution of bringing the house to the grade on the front. Overall, the building is fairly high and fairly bulky on this site. When I looked at it from across the street and all the adjacent neighbors, it does affect them. But the fact that the trees have been there for so long sort of has camouflaged the fact there's going to be a house there someday. And I'd like to see the overall house drop to 2 to 4 feet, but I think it's also got an awful lot of paving space around the front and sides of the house. Seems to be more paving than landscaping. I'd like to see some larger tree forms to screen the front of the house from the street. It just seems to be out there with a lot of mass. Those are my comments.
Yeah, I'll go. So when I popped open and saw the address, I'm pretty familiar with the area, and I was like, that's a big lot. There's no way you're gonna be able to put a house on there without the next door neighbor having an issue. And the next couple documents later, there's a letter of support. So I feel like if the design team and neighbors and architects were all like this, then they'd probably put us out of a job. Just because I think it's rare that you'd be able to design a house, this large on this on this lot and do it in a way that doesn't impact a neighbor that clearly could have been massively impacted and could have resulted in us, having 3 continuances and keep on reeling it back over and over again. So in my opinion, from the design of the house standpoint, to get it right the first time is pretty amazing. I do have some concerns and it's minor, and it's just around the downhill neighbor and being able to put some plantings in that, I'm sorry, is it down? Yeah, downhill neighbor. And quite frankly, I had gone to the lot and just didn't even think of that as as a potential, but I think there are some plantings. I would want us to, I mean, we've kind of gone down this road before and we can't say, oh, to work together or to be approved by staff kind of ambiguously. Be nice to just say, hey, look, here's, exactly what they want. I do believe in the sincerity of the design team of working with the neighbor, and hopefully getting to something that does work, but it'd be nice if we could specify exactly what that was to not leave any ambiguity.
And I forgot to have both of you comment on the variance, sorry.
Yes, I am supportive of the variance, agree with staff's conclusions on supporting and making the 4 findings.
I can make findings.
When I reviewed this, I had 2 comments that I think have already come up a bit, but mine were more screening and more glazing. And I did not understand what window in particular would affect 1855 the most. But I did want to ask, on your south or southeast view, there's this row of windows at the very, very top. I would assume that that doesn't add anything to your view, and I didn't know if that could be modified or if there was, if that would affect the just the sort of glass bulky look of the house. But it was a kind of a minor point, but I did think if the neighbors were concerned about the amount of glass, the amount of light that might be coming out of that, perhaps that's an area that could be modified.
Jim, I'm not an expert in this, but putting an anti-reflective coating on the 1, 2, 3, 4, which surface? I mean, it's most likely gonna be a double glazed surface. So like,
Most of it is done internally.
yeah. So it's the 2 and the 3 surface, right?
Right,
Not on the 1 and the 4.
right.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how effective it is, honestly.
I don't think it's as effective.
No.
I think it degrades over time, but I was looking at that last row window that you
Yeah.
were referring to, and it's a lot of light from the downhill neighbor. So that was my only big concern was,
It's a glass box effectively on the second story.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought that taking that away might take away some of that box look, but maybe more importantly, is there, can you decrease night light is what I thought jumped out at
I
me.
mean, there's
Idea.
2 ways you can do it. You can either reduce the roof height, or you can get rid of that row of glass. So I don't know how how strongly people feel about that, and I do appreciate your comment about specifying the plants, because it never works out that I think it's just good to be very clear from the first staff direction to specify plant planting.
I think the most important thing would actually be the placement of the light fixtures on the inside. If they do indirect lighting, that'll be a horizontal flood of light, and from below slightly, you'll just be blinded.
Is there an
by the
RCP
light.
in here that shows that?
I didn't see it.
I didn't see an RCP. Staff, do you know if there was an RCP with that? The lighting plan? I'm just double how the lighting of the eave is gonna occur.
I don't believe there was.
Okay,
Well,
because I think that is very significant. If you're in the downhill and then you have can lights on the eave, it's gonna make a huge impact, I think, on the downhill neighbor as well.
we can make instructions just to let the lighting be downlight rather than indirect uplight.
Well, even if it's downlight on the eaves, that has a huge impact as well.
Well, if they're shielded partially,
Yeah.
they would be.
Did you say on the east side? What side did you?
On the eaves.
Oh, on the eaves. I thought
Yeah,
you said
yeah,
east side.
yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
yes.
So do we have a set of recommendations that we sort of want to consolidate around? I think Brian's suggestion on specifying the planting, at least the location, and maybe sort of direction about type and style. I mean, do you have an idea?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like the design team was willing to put in at least, like 4 to 5. So I think something like no less than 5, and then we just specify what size they would be.
I think you should just specify that all exterior lights be shielded downlights, fully shielded, rather than.
Oh, we talking about the trees.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I went to landscape plan.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, so, so so shielded down lights is, yeah,
Are we
all-
okay
all-
with
all-
having them on the eaves?
all exterior downlight shielded.
Yeah, fully shielded.
Any comments on the windows? On the,
I'm really, I mean, this is an entire hillside that has like any house that's been built in the last 20 years, floor to ceiling windows. So I'm really hesitant for a, light or reflection for a downhill neighbor. Yes, the sun will set. Yes, there's a chance that there's going to be reflection for that moment as the sun passes over the horizon, but more than likely the neighbors are looking the other way at the sunset themselves. And I would really be hesitant to want to try to support like light reduction or
That
doing
kind of
stuff to
reflection
shield.
typically lasts less than 15 minutes because the sun is moving, so it's.
Yeah, I think it's it's generally tends to be more of a perceived problem than a, real, like a real thing. And there's no shortage of homes that have entire walls of glass facing toward the view on this hill. So, so then I guess as far as back to the planting, so I guess, I guess I'm not too, I did not see the plant that was being referenced, our strawberry tree. All right, can and they come in, does anybody that, has more 24-inch boxes? Okay. Okay, so maybe we'll say no less than 4 and then let the.
I think the landscape architect can probably take care of the screening better than we can.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm happy to do that, but it ends up putting it on staff, which if the staff's okay with us saying additional screening and it being ambiguous, then, because I think in the past it's been sometimes not specific enough and it's gotten, yeah.
I would prefer if it was as specific as possible, and I will, with understanding that there, well, maybe I shouldn't say this on the record. Ideally, yes, if you would like to say no less than 5, 24-inch box, that would be helpful direction. We do have a general condition that's in there right now. Let me check one thing.
On the resolution,
Can we open it and ask the landscape architect?
there is no resolution. Oh, there is a draft resolution,
Yeah.
sorry. There is.
So we do account for the, this is kind of going back to the lighting. We do account for the downlit shielded lights on condition number 6.
Okay.
But fully shielded or partially?
The way that it's written right now is that it must be downlit with shielding where appropriate. I think it sounds like based on your conversation, we need to amend that it's just shielded, period.
Exterior, yep.
For all exterior fixtures. And then there is language that says, other than those specifically approved by the design review board, which we would need to amend because if I'm understanding your direction, it's that you're not allowing any non-shielded light fixtures. So we can amend that language.
So the main reason to say fully shielded is there are all kinds of pierce shields and other things, but you want it fully shielded so that the light spills on the ground, not on your eyeballs or see-through.
That makes sense.
I'm trying to
cannot
look for the
find
landscape. I don't see it in the, new landscape is proposed throughout the property with a concentration of native and drought tolerant species. New landscaping will include approximately new trees in addition to new shrubs. I'm not sure what that means. New landscape will include, I don't know what that means. Sorry. It
Where
was
is this?
Article 7 of the resolution talks about landscaping, and it says that new landscaping will include approximately new trees in, I don't know what that means.
It's at 83.
It says,
Where am I?
Article 7.
Can I ask the landscape architect? How many oak trees she has down there?
Existing landscaping includes approximately
Oh.
11 trees, and
I think there is a missing number,
Oh,
basically.
I'm
right?
sorry.
it's 11 trees, it says, existing trees. So those are the oaks on the, southwest, east, south, that corner of the back two corners. So, the plan shows it, the existing oak trees that they're gonna sort of maintain. And so can we specify that they work together with I know that's not great, with a neighbor to come up with a species that's.
Here we go.
It's never
Well, I have
great,
one approach
right?
that I think may work in this situation. So there can be a specific resolution or specific condition that we add to the resolution. I think, pardon? Oh, with the understanding that it sounds like there may be some slight modifications to that plan. Section 1654-070 and the municipal code allows staff to approve changes to an approved project if they meet certain findings, essentially that it's consistent with all applicable zoning codes. It doesn't change the intent of the approval. And I think if there are slight modifications to the plan, they come in and say that maybe it'll be 5 plants and it's reduced to 4, or it's 5 for one type and a similar tree, or there's some substantial.
So we
needed
talk about,
condition.
instead of being prescriptive, we give the performance that we would like to see. And so the performance that we'd like to see is adequate screening to protect the privacy of the below neighbor and to shield the below neighbor to too much light.
Could we do like with an anticipated number of trees?
I think some number of trees would be good, just as.
Objective for us to. Could we use that language?
Landscape
like
plan, sheet yellow
anticipated?
3, they showed 10, what?
11, it's 11 oak trees, yeah.
Oak trees.
Oh, it's one in the front and
One
there
front,
were.
10 there are 10 back here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd consider that adequate. The advantage in this case is those oak trees are planted in the view corridor of the building. So you know they'll be pruned to an appropriate height for privacy
True.
and view.
It's true.
So I don't think we need to worry about it too much as long as they're planted there.
So, yeah, let me just pull the landscape plan.
But the oak trees, I think the issue is that oak trees will shield to a degree because they're not. the
But if you
canopies
canopy, if you prune the tops, they
Yeah.
bush in the bottom. So they're actually a pretty good tree to handle.
What's landscaping plan on, sorry? Which of these 3 attachments?
The main problem they're gonna have is this is nothing but serpentine up there, so the oaks don't grow very fast in serpentine, but nothing does. Good luck.
I don't see any existing oak trees on this, but maybe this is your bad. Brian, want to
so-
try to take a stab?
Yeah, I'm sorry, so maybe I've lost the plot a little bit. Where are we on the?
The
lands-
trees?
Yeah,
They would like to at least a specified quantity.
You can also do an anticipated quantity too. So
you
you
know,
can,
the other thing is anybody particular, like, do we feel like we need to specify a strawberry? Or could we just specify a 24-inch box size and leave it to
Yes.
maybe either the applicant or a combination of the applicant working with the neighbor?
Is that
But at
okay with you
least-
guys?
yeah, I think
Okay,
that,
Okay.
that gives us a little bit more leeway.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so I'll take a stab at this one. As to 619th Ridge Road, we find that the project is categorically exempt from CEQA. We approve the project with the following conditions, that there are no less than 4 additional 24-inch box trees placed in a way to provide additional screening for the downhill neighbor, and that we amend the conditions of approval as noted by staff on the shielding of all exterior downlights. Did that capture that? We need to? All right. I think we're good, right?
Sounds great. Can we take a quick roll
Oh, sorry.
or quick voice?
Look for a second. Second.
Oh, so a second, sorry.
Second.
Okay. let's do a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Hearing none, the motion passes, 4 ayes and 1 absentee. And no opposition. Thank you. And this concludes our meeting.
Thank you. Have fun digging. Have fun digging. Have you looked at the rock up there?